Good afternoon. Right, I want to go through with you how we use the enamelling kiln. So I've got a piece of copper here, and this has been cut to shape and it's been filed down so it's really nice and smooth, and then it's also got a little hole drilled in it. So you need to make sure you've done all of those things before you do the enamelling. So you can see here that I've got a kiln. The kiln goes up to about 2000 degrees, so it is really hot. So it's important that we are very careful and we use it as we are instructed. So before you start your enamelling, we need to make sure that the enamel is going to stick to the copper. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to rub down the surface with some wet and dry paper. So what I'm doing with this is I'm actually cleaning and getting rid of any grease that might be on that surface. So I'm just rubbing it down, and I need to make sure that I get all the edges as well, because sometimes it's quite easy. We naturally kind of put pressure on the middle and we tend to not put as much pressure around the edges. So try and make sure that you do put pressure all the way around it. Okay, and then once you've done that, you need to try not to touch it with your fingers, because basically we've got grease on our fingers. Even if you think your hands are nice and clean, there will be some grease on there, and that grease can transfer onto the copper. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put a layer of enamel powder onto here. So I'm going to sit it in the middle of a piece of paper, and that's just so that I don't waste the powder when I've done. So here I've got some paste, and this is just like to help the enamel stick a little bit. It just helps you get things in place. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the paste on, a little bit of the adhesive, and then I'm going to put a layer of enamel powder. So whatever pattern you want to do, you need to start off by just putting a layer of enamel powder on there. So I'm going to use a light grey. I've not used this before, so I'm going to see how this comes out. So I've got a little sieve here. If you can see, I've got a mini sieve. I'm going to put a little bit of powder into the sieve, and then I'm going to sieve it onto the copper. Okay, so I need to make sure that the copper is covered fully, but I don't want it too thick. If it gets too thick, then it tends to crack when it goes into the kiln. So it's a case of getting it to a reasonable amount without it being too thick. And then what I need to do is I'm going to carefully lift that up, and I'm going to put it onto the mesh there that is going to go into the kiln. So you can see then I'm tipping out the excess enamel powder, and I'm going to get the little pot, and that can go now back into the pot there like that. Okay, right, so this is on this grid here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this, which is called a panning fork, and this allows me to lift it into the kiln without me having to touch the metal. So I'm going to get it ready. I'm going to open the kiln. You can see it's extremely hot. It's going to go into the kiln, and it's going to stay in there for about 30 seconds. Okay, that is all. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the clock, and I'm going to leave that for 30 seconds, and then I will open it up to have a look if it's ready. I've also got, in true Blue Peter style, some that I have made earlier here. So I've done one with just a black there, and I've got one with red. Now you'll notice on the red that it's a bit mottled if I hold it up to the camera like that. That just tends to be how the red works out for some reason. Different colours tend to work differently. Okay, so I'm going to get this one out. Remember, this is a grey. Okay, so you can see it has actually pulled away a little bit from the sides. But I'm not going to worry too much about that. I can always put a little bit more powder around it, and also I'm going to put some pattern on there, so I'm not going to worry too much. So what I want to do with my other ones now is I'm going to add some different patterns onto them. So I'm going to first of all just put a little bit of adhesive on. Okay, so I'm going to just, because this will help me to keep things in place. And I'm just going to show you very quickly. Enamelling is quite a delicate process, and you need a bit of patience, shall we say. You need to be and you need to be able to work out what you're going to do. But I'm just going to show you fairly quickly some different techniques. So these things here, I don't know if you can see them. I'll try and hold them up to the camera. These are called millifior. And I can only describe them as being almost like little bits of rock that you get from the seaside. They look like that. So they look like they've got little patterns in them, and they look like seaside rock. So what I'm going to do with those is I'm actually going to decide I'm going to put them on this one because it'll look nice on that one. So I'm going to put a millifior onto that black one. And this is cracked enamel. Now we've got cracked enamel in different sizes, so there's some big chunks of enamel and some smaller ones. So this one's probably a medium one. You can get it finer than this, and you can get it much bigger. So I'm going to put a couple of little pieces on there, and you'll be able to see what happens to that when it comes out. It does spread quite a lot, so you don't want really huge pieces. So that's that. On the red one, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to use a stencil. So I've got a little stencil there with some holes in, and I'm going to put another colour on there. So I'm just going to try and set that up, and then what I'm going to do with that is sieve that through. Okay, I'm just going to move the grey one that I've done. It just stuck a little bit up, and I'm going to put that now in my water just to finish off cooling it down. Okay, and then I'm going to move this one out of the way onto there, ready to go into the kiln. Okay, so with this one, I'll just pick it up, pop it onto my piece of paper, and then I'm just going to get that on there. And I think I'm just going to use a cream powder. So I'm just going to put a little bit of powder into my sieve and just sieve it through these holes. Okay, put that back in there. Okay, so if I carefully take that, oops, it's stuck. Carefully take that off. There we go, I've got my dots on there, so that looks quite nice. Right, so this one's going to go in now into the kiln, so you can see what that looks like if I hold it up. There, so I've got two little bits of cracked enamel and a millifior. So that's going to go in there. This might take just a little bit longer because the millifior is thicker. So I'm going to give that 30 seconds and then check it, but it may need a little bit longer than that. Okay. So whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to move this one with my dots, I quite like that one, onto there. And then I'm going to do a third one. So my third one I'm going to do onto this grey colour here, which looks quite a nice colour now that's actually cooled down, so that's quite nice. Right, let me just check the time. Okay, so this is really hot, as you can see as it comes out. So you can see that's just come out. I'll see if I can just hold the camera and show you. Okay, so you can see that it's all melted, and that is a black background, and then it's actually got red pattern on it, but at the moment we can't see that, so I'm going to show you that in another minute or two when that has cooled down. Okay, so going back to my next one, so this grey one here, let me just adjust the camera. So again, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to put some glue on there, some adhesive on there, And then what I'm going to try this time are put in some enamel rods. So these are like little sticks of enamel, and you can break them up into different sizes. And I'm just going to put those on using tweezers, because using tweezers I can sort of position them accurately. But you can break them with your fingers, they snap really easily. So if I just show you like that, I can just snap them in half. That one's got a little bend in it, but we'll put that on anyway and see what it looks like. And then that's another straight one, so I'm just going to put those there. Okay, right, so I'm going to put in the dotty one. I'll just see if I can show you that one with the camera close up as well. So you can see there, I've put powder dots using a stencil. So I'm going to put that into the kiln now. And it's looking like the way the other came out, it won't take very long. So we're probably looking only about 20 seconds or something like that. So looking back at the one we've just done there, it's still cooling down. So what I'm going to do with that one now, you can see the red is coming out in the Millefiori. So we'll have another look at that in a minute, just give it a little bit more chance to cool down. Okay, so I'm going to just go back into the kiln and see if this one is ready. There we go. That looks nice now. So I'll just, again, you can see, if I get the camera over it, that it goes really, really dark when it comes out of the kiln, and that's because it's so hot, and then as it cools down the true colours come back to us. Okay, and then we've just got the last one that's going to go into the kiln, so is the one with the enamel rods. So I'm just going to put this one into the water and just cool that off. Now you can see I put two red pieces on there, but actually they've kind of disappeared into the black, so that wasn't too successful, but we could fire it again if we wanted to try that again. But for now I'm just going to leave that. And then I'm going to put this one on and into the kiln, so again probably only about 20 seconds will be required. Okay, so I'm going to just get the dotty one and cool that one off. You might have heard that go into the water, so you can see that one now. Put it on my hand and show you. That one looks quite nice if we can get the light correct so it doesn't shine off it. So that's quite nice. And then that one's not quite ready, just give it another few seconds. There's a fine line between it being ready and overdone, so you just really need to check them frequently. So now it's ready. Okay, so very quickly it goes from not being done to being ready. Okay, so hopefully you can see that one, and again I'm just going to let that one cool down. So this has been a very, very quick demonstration really, and you can obviously develop these techniques into something that is much more intricate and much more detailed. But I just wanted to give you a quick idea of what we can do, so that when you start doing your own designs, then you've got some idea of how those designs can be achieved. So I'm just going to show you the finished 3 pieces that I've done. If you can see them, I'll try and get the camera at the right angle for you to be able to see. Okay, so this one is using a stencil with powder. This one is using enamel rods, and this one I've used Millefiori and cracked enamel, but the cracked enamel hasn't worked as I intended. Okay, hope that helps. Thank you for listening.